Celebrity Big Brother. He's back. I was just actually I was actually really reading a really interesting tweet just now. Because the big thing sort of coming out of it, I know we sort of previewed it last week, was that Stormy Daniels was meant to be the big hire. They'd done this whole task around putting a president in the house and choosing a vice president and all that, and apparently pulled out at the last minute. It was Ben Fro, the head of Channel 5, which coincidentally won Best Channel at the Edinburgh TV Awards this year.
It's voted for by people in the industry, isn't it? It's not a public vote.
I still don't understand how that happened.
No. I can't think of anything good on Channel 5.
Cruising with Jane McDonald has a wide reach, obviously. But so this series, we did mention it again. Kirstie Alley is the big name here, and took that presidential thing. But the Stormy Daniels, apparently they'd had someone go to pick her up, and she just sort of ran off on them, and they built the whole program around her.
Well, there was lots of different stories. She did an interview with Loose Women where she was handed some sort of writ as she arrived in the UK that said, you can't talk about these things, otherwise you'll go to jail when you come back to the US or something. Or there was some sort of extradition order that I think possibly spooked her. Or because I don't understand why you would come over and not do the show. I think they've reached in trying to get something that was a little bit outside of their remit, I think.
I mean, to be honest, Gary, I haven't watched more than the opening show and then the episode after, because I really didn't warmed. I mean, that Rodrigo, the human Ken doll, I can't listen to his voice. There's this girl, Natalie Nunn, who's famous for having Twitter beef with Rihanna. Well done. She reminds me of the guy from Married at First Sight. Well done for getting married at first sight and then getting divorced. Yeah. The only ones who I liked were Kirstie Alley. Ryan Thomas seems like a sort of quite a chilled out dude.
That's the Coronation Street guy, isn't it? Yeah.
Roxy from Emmerdale seems quite a sweet girl. I mean, and Nick Leeson seems to be being Greg Wallace's stunt double these days.
Channel 5 have kind of shot themselves a little bit in the foot. The big sort of hook that they've made of this series is cooking up a storm, or the eye of the storm. Yeah. So all of these contestants have been famous and then also suffered controversy for one reason or another.
But again, it's Stormy Daniels. They built.
Well, but then the side plot that they've tried to go with, because then is all of these people have been in the press for the wrong reasons, as well as celebrity. And the problem with that is when you sort of go for that, that type of person, they're going to be controversial. So Rodrigo apparently used the N-word twice in the first few days. Of course, there's a lot of controversy off the guy who threatened his partner.
Dan Osborne.
That's it. So there's obviously a lot of people very unhappy.
Not only threatened his partner, but allegedly had an affair with another girl who's gone in there from Love Island.
He shouldn't be rewarded with this publicity because of what he did.
And Hardeep Singh Kohli as well.
Well, I've heard so many people saying, "Oh, I could tell you a thing or so about him." So there's obviously quite a lot, and he's been controversial from the bits I've read in the newspapers.
He's up for eviction tonight alongside that Natalie Nunn. He was the last minute replacement, I think, for Stormy Daniels. His was the only name that wasn't on the sort of the list that came out, and her. So he was obviously the standby, and I think he's probably out first. But yeah, his media storm was that he had harassed someone. It wasn't as I think he'd said something inappropriate to a colleague.
Yeah,
and
he'd used some inappropriate language or something, or said something inappropriate at somewhere where he worked. And I've seen comments and people tweeting saying, "Oh, when the news finally comes about him, it will be interesting." Lots of people whispering and rumouring about him. So they want that kind of eye on the programme, but then of course sometimes it doesn't make it. It's not always positive, and the people they've put in. As you say, there's nobody likeable.
As I said, those three.
Likeable.
I think they are finding it hard to come up with storms for like Ryan Thomas. Oh, he went bankrupt. Roxanne Pallett. Oh, she was in this crash and people didn't believe her and thought this. And then that poor model woman. who has the charisma of a piece of broccoli.
Well, that's the problem, is that she was kind of thrust into the limelight for all the wrong reasons, and seemed
well,
to
that
be
was after she was kidnapped. That's what
that's
happens
the
when
thing.
you're in a dark room. You're thrust into the light afterwards.
Yeah, but then once I realised that Stormy Daniels is not coming in, then where is this thing going? And I'm just like, oh, Kirstie Alley, you're too good for this. I think. So maybe I didn't.
It's going to be one. It's going to be one of those three who wins it. I think Kirstie Alley, Ryan Thomas, or Roxanne.
Or as you say, maybe Nick Leeson, if he sticks in the background, no one will notice he's there.
I don't think Nick Leeson's going to win it.
Please don't let me Psychic Sally, because then she'll only come out and say she predicted it.